When someone you love will not change. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne. I was talking to someone one day and they were telling me that they've talked and talked and begged and asked and did just about everything to get someone that they love to change. And that person is resistant to that change that this other person wants them to make, which is a very reasonable change. And so I spoke with them and I discussed that sometimes some people resist change. They just don't want to change. And the more we talk about changing them or, them going in the direction that we want them to go into, often the more that they will resist. Sometimes there comes a point where we have to be silent about that change, that we've done everything possible. Now, we have to determine at what level, if at all, we want to stay in the relationship without them changing. Sometimes it's important to distance ourselves or to actually even leave a relationship. Other times, we can be around a person and be perfectly fine. It's just that we've accepted that they're not going to change in that area. So every situation can be different. And yet, if we've asked and talked and encouraged and motivated and that person is not going to make that change, sometimes we have to step back and quit talking about the change that we want to see. And often it's in that silence, and I'm not talking about not talking at all. I'm talking about not talking about a particular subject matter. Sometimes that's when they will take notice, and sometimes that is when change may occur, when we quit talking about it. And even if change doesn't occur, for us to keep talking and going over and over and over it is probably going to do little good. Yes, there's a time that we may be the only right voice in someone else's life. And so it's important that we motivate, that we inspire, and that we say the right things to a person. And yet, if they're resistant on going to those things and they don't want to hear it and they refuse to make the changes, sometimes it's best to be silent. And in that silence, sometimes those people will take notice. And sometimes positive change will occur. Not always, but sometimes. We can't necessarily make another person change. And even if we could, when we quit making them change, often they're going to revert back to the way they were before we changed the circumstances that created that change. People have to want to change from within who they are. Circumstances alone are usually temporary in change. So if we change circumstances and they change, likely when the circumstances go back to the way they were, likely they are going to go back to the way they were. So when someone doesn't want to change, I believe it's important to decide at what level we want to be in the relationship, if at all. And if we do want to remain in the relationship, should we continue on encouraging, motivating, discussing, over talking something that we've talked about over and over and over, or should we simply quit talking about it? From my house to yours, may God bless you. There can be power in silence. And I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.